week in the Pentagon, I'm Petty Officer Liz Murray. The most wanted man in the world is now dead. Ending a manhunt that lasted nearly 10 years, this week Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan in a targeted, covert U.S. military operation that the commander-in-chief said was carried out with extraordinary courage and capability. In his speech to the nation following that mission, President Barack Obama declared justice has been done.
News of the killing came late at night, May 1st, from the East Room of the White House.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
Osama bin Laden, the world's most wanted terrorist and fugitive, was born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He was college educated and came from a wealthy family. He was also the founder of al-Qaeda, a new terrorist organization that formed in the late 1980s during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. In 1988, in what is believed to be one of his first terrorist attacks targeting Americans, the U.S. embassies in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and Nairobi, Kenya, were each bombed, killing hundreds of innocent civilians. Then came the worst terrorist attack on Americans in U.S. history, September 11, 2001.
The images of 9/11 are seared into our national memory. Hijacked planes cutting through a cloudless September sky, the Twin Towers collapsing to the ground, black smoke billowing up from the Pentagon, the wreckage of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Following the September 11th terrorist attacks, bin Laden and his network claimed responsibility for its planning and delivery. Immediately after, the United States would wage the global war on terrorism under then-President George W. Bush.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Less than a month after 9/11, Operation Enduring Freedom began. The hunt was on for Osama bin Laden and other high-ranking al-Qaeda members believed at the time to be hiding out in Afghanistan. Shortly after taking office, President Obama ordered Central Intelligence Agency Director Leon Panetta to make the killing or capture of bin Laden a top priority.
Then, last August, after years of painstaking work by our intelligence community, I was briefed on a possible lead to bin Laden. It was far from certain, and it took many months to run this thread to ground. I met repeatedly with my national security team as we developed more information about the possibility that we had located bin Laden hiding within a compound deep inside Pakistan.
May 1st, the commander-in-chief authorized military action against this compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, a town about 35 miles north of the country's capital, Islamabad.
A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body.
Pursuit of the world's most wanted fugitive would come to an end. John Brennan is assistant to the president for Homeland Security. He described the mood in the Situation Room of the White House as the president and his national security team watched the raid unfold in real time halfway around the world.
It was probably one of the most anxiety-filled periods of time, I think, in the lives of the people who were assembled here yesterday. The minutes passed like days, and the president was very concerned about the security of our personnel. That was what was on his mind throughout, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to get through this and accomplish the mission. But it was clearly very tense, a lot of people holding their breath.
According to the White House, U.S. helicopters delivered a team of Navy SEALs to the compound. They cleared the building by moving room to room in an operation that lasted about 40 minutes. Osama bin Laden, 3 adult males, and a woman were killed.
I think the accomplishment that very brave personnel from the United States government were able to realize yesterday is a defining moment in the war against al-Qaeda, the war on terrorism, by decapitating the head of the snake known as al-Qaeda.
a DNA analysis was performed on the body, which confirmed Osama bin Laden's identity, officials said. His remains were prepared in accordance with Muslim custom and buried at sea. Religious rites were performed aboard USS Carl Vinson in the North Arabian Sea.
We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation, for they exemplify the professionalism, patriotism, and unparalleled courage of those who serve our country. We can say to those families who have lost loved ones to al-Qaeda's terror, justice has been done.
In a written statement released by the Pentagon following the death of Osama bin Laden, Press Secretary Jeff Morrell wrote, "Secretary Gates is enormously proud of everyone involved in making yesterday's operation a success. It was an extraordinary achievement." 2 days after the death of Osama bin Laden, the White House said that it will not release photos of the dead al-Qaeda leader because doing so could pose a security risk to U.S. troops. President Obama spoke on the CBS News program 60 Minutes.
We've done DNA sampling and testing, and so there is no doubt that we killed Osama bin Laden. It is important for us to make sure that very graphic photos of somebody who was shot in the head are not floating around as an incitement to additional violence.
News of the death of Osama bin Laden spread quickly throughout the United States and the world. Staff Sergeant E.L. Craig gives us a look at the reaction.
Some people hit the streets, like this spontaneous gathering just outside the White House in Washington, D.C. Others made their way to Ground Zero in New York City. Hundreds more turned out in Times Square. And at West Point Military Academy, cadets took to the courtyard waving American flags, then chanting. Troops around the world got news of the death from commercial TV. Karen Parrish is a reporter with American Forces Press Service. She was in Afghanistan at the time with U.S. troops.
The news spread throughout the camp this morning between about 8 and 9 o'clock. The reaction was very positive among the soldiers. They're happy and excited that they've seen some victory in the war on terror.
But military officials are quick to caution that although the death of Osama bin Laden struck an enormous blow to al-Qaeda and its affiliates, it does not mean the end of the U.S. effort. Major General Richard Mills, commander of Marine Expeditionary Force Afghanistan, says a strong message was sent to the insurgency about terrorism.
I think it's a huge symbolic victory. I think that it will have psychological impact on the leadership of the insurgency within Afghanistan. I think perhaps the greatest lesson they'll draw from this is, in fact, that the United States doesn't forget. The United States doesn't withdraw. We focus in on a mission and we see it to completion.
Also this week, the president and other top leaders visited with the families of those killed on September 11th.
May 5th, Mr. Obama made an unscheduled stop at a firehouse in New York known as the Pride of Midtown. 15 firefighters from that location lost their lives on 9/11 after responding to the terrorist attacks. Shortly after, the president arrived at Ground Zero, the location where the Twin Towers once stood. He laid a wreath at the site and spoke with the families of the victims of the attacks. Back in Washington, D.C., in a similar ceremony, Vice President Joe Biden, Defense Secretary Robert Gates, and other military leaders paid tribute to those who lost their lives on September 11th by laying a wreath at the Pentagon.
Coming up,